So, how'd you do yesterday?
Um, Could have been better, but I did okay. I
Yeah,
switched bias and executed a couple of decent trades,
good. I've,
and
I've,
then
I've.
switched biased again on the way back and
Uh,
on the way up. So
that's great. I missed, of course, all the downside stuff, and then it figured, oh no, I know what's gonna happen. We're gonna take stops all the way up to the top, and then it'll roll over, and I'll be over, but it won't be over, And I didn't end up doing that. Yesterday was pretty good for me, I would say overall. It didn't, I didn't get the awesome relieving moves where price just sort of takes off and you can sort of bank that you've got a really high R trade. I had to kind of fight for what I had, but I ended up doing a pretty good job. So, all right, let's talk about. No, I gotta do this disclaimer. I gotta put that up there. That's on there. So, blah blah blah. And then now let's put up our battle plan. I guess I can go first if you don't mind, Nick. I don't know if I'm going to say anything super awesome here, but the big thing, the one point that I know I want to point out is we had an outsized day yesterday, according to this study that I have for the previous 10 days. I want to say that's the study, and then we ended or closed at the high of the day inside of this balanced day. So this, I mean, this really kind of looks like a spring to me. Although when it was happening, it probably didn't look like a spring at all, or that it was even possible for it to be a spring. But if you notice, look at this previous low, which is the last time that we failed off. We just dipped below that in this low volume area here and then rocketed right back up here. So that's just kind of on a higher time frame. That's kind of an interesting thing. But look at where we are really is right back smack dab in the middle of balance again. And this is where I'm really going to value your structural way of thinking. So the first thing that I think is after that sell-off, one second, I'm going to hide all these drawings. After that sell-off, the common sense would tell you that you test off of this area here. That you'd probably revert down and maybe check into the bottom of bounce again. But this move in the overnight is so strong, and the late afternoon close of that is so strong. I have a hard time believing that that's likely. So I'm a little bit neutral right now, and I'm not neutral because I think that the price action tells me to be neutral. It's just that I don't see, there's nothing clear that stands out to me. Um, Other than the short side, but the strength of yesterday and the overnight doesn't sort of coincide with that. So I'm going to be kind of waiting on the sidelines until I see something that makes sense to me. But as it is, as it stands, we're opened up right now, or at least out of range right now of yesterday. So that would give us a gap opportunity, perhaps. So my hypothesis is that we will gap fill and then probably continue up. So there'll be like a repositioning down to here, depending on how deep we go, and then a test into the higher side of the balance area. So I think I can turn that back on now. The um,
mm,
the drawing. So this would be like scenario one that we recalibrate, retest, and that. Scenario two would be however this balance area works itself out. What we end up doing is returning to this point of control, testing the other side of this balance area, and then just kind of wobbling around in this area. It doesn't probably we don't take out the overnight high, or if we do, we take it out and basically fail immediately. And then the last one is strange, and it's only there based on the strength of this V bottom and this price channel continuation movement. Is that we check down a little bit or we don't, and we just go. We just rip right up through here, right at the open. If that happens, if this third scenario happens, it's highly unlikely that I'll have anything to do with it. I'm probably just going to have to watch it. So at this point, I would say I'm probably going to take the first 10, 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes, whatever it is, and kind of assess what I think is really happening before I take any action. The only other thing that I could point out here is that development value gives me some very clear guidelines on how to trade this kind of situation. And the blue um, shaded area that you're seeing here is the value area of yesterday. And what I'll point out is that you'll see that we created it, we fell all the way through it, we didn't make it to the other side, we impulsed out, we held it and made a higher high. So it's a rejection of this value area. So then for me, with how I use development value, being imbalanced to the upside as we are, I am expecting a test of VWAP. And if VWAP and value area highs start to align themselves during this day, then that's a pretty strong signal for me to be looking for continuation higher. Otherwise, if we get acceptance into this area, then I'm going to expect us to move across value. So given the structures that we're at right now, I am largely looking to the long side only, even though I think we're kind of in the middle of a very high time frame balance. So kind of a trickier read, I believe, for me. That's why I'm looking forward to hearing what you're going to say, Nick.
Hmm. Okay. Um, so I'm going to just start with this bigger picture chart, and it's going to be kind of interesting to talk about what I'm thinking, because your scenarios are exactly what I was thinking the three scenarios could possibly be. But I would say that, this for me is that this day is obviously clear rejection. Um, and I think it's also a long flush. And this is what I was talking about the other day when we were talking about these moves that come down really hard and then reject like this. To me, especially when they come down really hard, I think you get a lot of shorts that are in the hole. They start shorting in the hole, thinking we're going to get this kind of a move and then another big leg. And lately, that has not been what we've been doing on the bigger picture. On the smaller picture, it does exist, but on the bigger picture, not so much. So I'm reading this as clear rejection of the lows. We've flushed out all the longs that might have been um, in here late. And I think now the market is pretty much cleared and checked the downside and cleared for the upside. Now, what's interesting to me too is that the S&Ps are much more bullish looking than the Dow. Um, and being that is because, really, this is the all-time high, 59s. We didn't make a series of lower lows, lower highs like you did in the Dow. This is really close to the all-time highs. We're literally 5 points away from the all-time highs.
Mm,
So it looks a little bit more bullish. That being said, though, if it was super bullish, if it was really bullish, you would have expected this area right here to have held yesterday.
right.
And then in the overnight session, you would have expected this balance area right here that happened yesterday to have had some level of bounce. Yet we still have to, even in the overnight session, we still have to come all the way down here for us to find the buyers to get this move up again. Now, so what does that mean? It means to me is that this market might be getting tired in the bigger picture, and we keep having to check a lot lower than expected to find the buyers that we need.
Mm,
That kind of happened here. Like, if we put in this all-time high and then we balanced this whole day and we closed really strong. Overnight session, we tried to hold this area, which would have been a normal
if you're seeing movement,
move,
you
something
can start
like,
to sense a desire.
a back down during the RTH session, push back up, make a higher low, go. Right? That would be a kind of a bullish looking thing, but yet we had to check all the way down there and then move up again. And now we've had to check all the way down here and then move up again. And even in this overnight session where you would think we would hold here, where this balance area is, where all this volume is, we couldn't hold there and go. We had to check all the way down here. So it makes me a little bit more suspicious on the bigger picture of what could be happening in our near future. But the scenarios for today are exactly the same scenarios you had. Most likely scenario for me is a bigger check down around the mid, maybe holding some of this middle ground and some sort of a bounce, and then a balance and a new all-time new highs. The secondary scenario that I'm going to be ready for is going to be a bigger test of this range, like you said, where we have to come all the way back down here again. And I don't expect to make new highs during the day. I think we're just going to balance out and continue the balancing for the day. And then the third one is exactly what you were just saying, which is almost like no check or a small check and a go. And I would imagine that's going to look like this, and then like this, and then like this. And I might be able to catch a long somewhere before we go. Because, this has been a struggle. This all has been a struggle. This is not looking like on the short term, does not look like a strong uptrend. On the bigger picture, it still looks like a strong uptrend, but on the short term, it doesn't look like, on the time frame we trade, doesn't always look like a strong uptrend. So, this is the most likely scenario for the uptrend.
Oh
Where
goodness, I'm just seeing something on your chart. I'm gonna have to go back and look at mine and see if it's there. But you see this, at the top it's pretty flat, but then the bottom it's like an expanding bugle here. I'm just seeing that. So it's one of those things where if we play out scenario white and blue scenario, we could be setting up for a much larger uh, sell off. But if we break through on if red happens, you should have an extraordinary move higher.
should, we should, but that's what we should have had back here.
Yeah.
You know? We did for one day, followed by a complete reversal all the way back to the point where the whole thing started. So you're right. I mean, I have been expected for quite some time now. When we broke out of this range from a while ago, that we would get some really big bars on the upside in the daily chart, which we've yet to get. If I could just pull up my daily chart, what I'm talking about is exactly right here. I was expecting when we broke out of this range, we checked down again, we slice right through it. We have this gigantic day up. These 3 days of balance, especially yesterday, is not necessarily a sign of strength. It's actually a recheck of this low and finding buyers again just to push us back up here. So it's not like it's trending to me.
Right.
And I mean, when you look at it from the point of view, if we go back just a little bit in time to when the markets were trending, okay, this is a trend in the dailies. Okay? And this happened in August of 20. We moved like that. And we're not doing that now. I mean, this is not trending in that way to me. It's balancing, struggling, rechecking, balancing, balancing, rechecking, balancing, rechecking. It's just a different environment. So what you would normally expect in that pink view that we were just looking at over here, which should be explosive, or normally I would think it to be explosive, I expect it to be more choppy.
Okay. Okay, so then I mean for both of us having a battle plan for this is a little bit tricky. You're gonna have to wait for some market development, some information to show itself before you can really even do anything and decide what it
Yeah,
means.
I mean, on pink scenario, it's going to be a pullback continuation trade against the highs. On the white, it's going to be a pullback to the mid area for me. And then on the blue, it's probably going to be a pullback to that pre-market support area, looking for some sort of a bounce that's going to be more take your 2R and get out kind of trades.
Right. Okay. All right. Good work.
What's the story, Gray?
Yeah.